Hi everyone. I hope you are doing well in your morning, your afternoon, or your night. I don't know from what part of the world you are joining us, but I am very happy to present today this guide that we name it Technological Autonomy as a Constellation of Experiences, because we made it to try to do a lot of work of systematizing and to share our experience in the development of training programs for technical promoters in community networks. So I am also very happy to have here very great people who are doing a great job in their countries or in the regions, developing training programs too. And so I am very happy for everything today. So I want to present briefly who is joining us today. We have Ritu Sirvastava, the Digital Empowerment Foundation from India. We have also Ursheshka Quiroz. She's from Redes del Pueblo, and she's from Puerto Rico, but right now she lives in Canada. And also she is one of the graduates of the training program that we developed with the ITU. We have also here Rispir Akinji from TunaPandaNet from Kenya, and we are happy to her join us because we are also in a process to develop their own training program in Kenya. We have also here a Roxana Winman Iliescu. She works in the Office of the Digital Inclusion of the ITU development sector, and she lives in Switzerland. Also, we have here Peter Bloom from Rhizomatica. She's the general coordination of Rhizomatica, and he also was one of the person who developed all the program of the Tecchio Comunitario, and then helped to develop also the program with ITU. That is the basis of this guy. And finally, but not least, Daniela Parra and Alma Soto, that they are two of the co-authors of this collective work that we are presenting right now. So I know everyone wants to hear what the speakers have to say. So I want to ask you, everyone, a first questions about why it's important to talk about training or capacity building to move forward to technological autonomy in communities. Why is important to develop that, and why there is a lot of effort linked to that, to the training and capacity building in community networks? So maybe if you want to start, Ritu.
Thanks, Carlos, and thank you everyone, those who are participating in this online event. And I'm really thankful for Rhizomatica for inviting me for this event. I think one of the things which I have experienced from the last 10 years while working in the community networks, the one thing which I have realized that in rural regions, we do not get technical expertise, and which specifically in India, it takes a lot of our time, it takes a hell of a cost and expenses to bring technical experts from the cities to rural parts of the country, which is a very cumbersome process itself. So if the network is down and then I have to bring someone, it has to be from a technical expertise point of view. We do need a technical expertise, but it's not the local person. So that itself creates a necessity for having a technical expertise to be developed at a local level, at a community level, which not only they can operate, manage, and implement or troubleshoot the network on their own, despite the fact despite bringing some technical expertise from the city, and to manage the network and to manage the community network itself. So if the community wants to have their own network, the technical expertise, social expertise, and the expertise to manage and troubleshoot has to come within from the community. And this is one of the basic need which when as an organization or as an individual you start working on a radio working, you realize that gradually you realize that. And that is why these kind of a training and small training aspects with committees becomes an essential part of deployment of a community network or any community network when we talk about it. So it's a learning process that it has to be that in any organization or any network practitioner, if they are going to they may be passionate about deploying the network, but what will happen after if he leaves or if he has to take a leave, he has to make sure that person, local community, is able to understand that network, they are able to manage the network. It's the same like the way we manage our home devices, whether we are managing our fridge or our washing machine, we do learn all those things. Similarly, the way that we have to learn as a community, we have to learn all those technical aspects as well as the operational aspect, day-to-day aspects of that network. And as a process which we always see that there are certain portions when we were providing the training, we do not only need a technological knowledge but also to impart the knowledge that how do we can do a network feasibility, how to make the community to learn about small nuances about the community network itself. It could be from a economical perspective, it could be from a sustainability perspective, it could be from a even telling community about the policy implications is very much necessary to talk about in the such kind of a training and capacity building programs. So those are some of the points which I will right now I'll open up, and then we can discuss later on as well.
Thanks a lot, Ritu. Yes, we agree with you that the training for community network is not only technical issues, but a lot of issues related to them. What do you think about it, Risper?
Thank you, Carlos. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
All right. Hello. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. Here in Kenya, it's 4:10, so it's evening. My name is Rispa Kinyi from Tunapandanet, as Carlos had mentioned. I'm the Gender and Community Coordinator and one of the peers of the LockNet project. And I'm so glad to be here. It's a pleasure, and I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to be here this time. So to contribute towards the conversation, I just want to iterate most of what Ariel has said, because it's also the points I had in terms of communities as we know them. When given the opportunities, they will articulate what they know they need for their own development, and it's key that they have autonomy in making decisions about what and for what and how technology projects that involve them will be developed. In other words, what I'm saying, it's a way in which decisions about technology matters are made by the same people who use them based on their needs and dreams, and not by outsiders making that decision, coming to their own context and making decisions for themselves. Because what we see with such projects or such decisions or even such training programs is that they are not meaningful to the community, as they do not speak to their needs, and also they do not cultivate the ownership aspect to what the community network is trying to the community wants, and even like owning those sort of projects. So yeah, just to speak about a little bit about our research here in Kenya, with a few community networks that are a bit far apart from each other geographically, it was apparent that community networks use bottom-up approach in providing services that integrate well with the local communities. When we kicked off work package 2, we began with the interviews for 4 community networks in Kenya, and we wanted to understand the factors behind the establishment, their passion or what drives them to have the to found the community networks that they engage with. And other than the technological bit, there was a deep demonstration on to understand the context on which those community networks worked in. So they engage with the communities at various key areas and levels as they roll out their infrastructure. And 2 things were apparent: understanding the community needs to refine the intentions of the community networks, and also train the communities on the skills they need to leverage the power of community networks in Kenya. So what I'm saying, or rather to wrap up, what I'm trying to say is to engaging the community networks from the onset is instrumental in enabling of community networks to build their own networks, and also manage their own networks and create content that is relevant to them and meets their local needs. So that at the end of the day, communities are not only passive users of the internet, but also active contributors. Yeah, thank you, Carlos.
Thanks a lot, Risper. Yes, thanks for the highlight for, I think, 2 big important things. One of them is that we need to understand a lot of things in the community, a lot of the way of the people live in this territory, to try to develop these training programs and to develop also the community networks, and also the final comment about the local content is very important in these cases. So the maybe the training for community networks, they also needs to have this component indeed. So thank you very much. What do you think, Krzyzewska, about it?
I agree with all of you. I think that the training definitely needs to address the needs of the community, and I think that in many ways, um, the idea of the autonomy in terms of technology has been taken away by big telecommunication companies, and in that process, there's instances where we have seen the need to regain that autonomy. In the case of Puerto Rico, in 2017, and basically during every hurricane season, every year, that gets highlighted. And the idea of alternative uh, infrastructure and setups of telecommunications has been more and more important. So, with that said, the communities identifying the need for telecommunications infrastructures and ways of learning about them that address those needs of the community have been really important. And having the trainings eh, from the community and with the community are essential for that. So so we can dream and we can act based on those tools that are at hand. Without that knowledge from the trainings, it would be harder to imagine anything else beyond paying for services from big telecommunications companies. So it's definitely important to take back that autonomy. We have the problem solving skills. We have the thinking about outside the box and the ability to apply knowledge. So it's just a matter of having that extra tool with technology and making it accessible to our communities, and then just going from there. The need is there, and as well as the willingness to address those issues in alternative ways.
Thanks a lot, Francesca. Yes, we need to see the needs that maybe the context has, and it is very different in each of the territories, and also very different when situation like that the people in Puerto Rico lived with this hurricane. No? So it's important to think about. There is a lot of things. My head is right now around to think a lot of things. So thank you very much. Uh, but I want to go to the practical thing of this guide and how we start to develop it. And for that, I want to invite to Roxana Widmer to talk us about the efforts that the ITU we've been doing for a lot of years, and that it is important to share, because a lot of the basis of the guide that we launched today is from that opportunity that ITU used to develop this program. So, Roxana, you're going to continue.
Thank you very much, Carlos. And first of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me here. I feel very honored to share this moment with all of you. And I have to say that I'm happy that life put me, let's say, the possibility to work in ITU. For those of you who are a little bit less familiar, so the ITU is a UN specialized organization for information and communication technology. And so in 2003, we begin in ITU to implement a digital inclusion program to connect through access, use, and knowledge of ICT everyone without discrimination of gender, age, ability, or location. And so to allow to those who want to be active participants and contributors in this digital world. I do believe that knowledge is fundamental. I do believe that the right to communication is fundamental. And I do believe that we can become self-sustainable only if our rights are fulfilled and we do have the necessary knowledge to be able to respond to our needs, whatever they are in the circumstances of our life. So for me, empowering people with knowledge was essential. And I have to say that also the member states were all in agreement that in the context in which the fourth industrial revolution is technological, and the tech is actually embedded all aspects of our life, it's important also to address this knowledge in a tailored way for each of the specific group that we were working with. In our case, it was gender, it was youth, it was older person with disabilities, indigenous population, and to try to first hear what really the end user needs are in order to best adapt to such knowledge development program. So in our case, I will try to be very brief because time is going, but in our case, we begin our project in 2005 formally with a different type of training courses. At the very beginning, as you can see, most of them focus on the topics of indigenous rights, and then we try to go to the web and to the project, and because we realize that there are a lot of added value that information and communication technology can bring, for instance, even to avoid handcraft sailings through other person and try to empower the person to be its own owner of its web page and sell directly its products. And then we realized that we need a little bit more, and even if the ITU wish it was to accompany indigenous people in the development of their projects, we realized that it's better to learn how to do and to let them do. In my country, we say it's better to learn someone to fish rather than give him a fish every day. So this is what we have done, and we have going up to innovative communication tool to strengthen indigenous communities to learn and to focus on how to develop, manage, and operate radio networks. This is really a type of program that, if you can put the other slide, please. We are operating for over years now, and we are very happy to tell you that up to now we involved over 5,000 indigenous in our program and projects, and we are very, very proud for everything we have done. However, the next slide, please. So while, as I was telling you, from 2018, for instance, we have this network program for operator radios network, and we do have quite impressive numbers, so over 800 people from 18 countries, more women even than men. Next slide, please. We try to include in these programs a holistic vision of let's say, the knowledge that we have to have even when we communicate, to ensure that we communicate into an accessible format that everybody can understand. We also extend the knowledge program with considering COVID, how to communicate in time of crisis and emergency situation. Anyway, next slide, please. What I want to share today with you, it's in particular the program that, from our point of view, is the one that brought a real added value in ITU trainings. And this was this training program for technical promoters in telecommunication and broadcasting in indigenous communities, which was actually developed thanks to Carlos and Eric Huerta efforts. And from my perspective, to respond to the main core of your question, I think this program is unique and is valuable, even if, as you can see, we have less people involved in this. It's also because the program comprises 20 weeks of learning plus 10 days in a campus, which is a face-to-face one. So it's a very, very long and large program. But this program, it's actually the one that will help us replicate inside the community the knowledge. So next slide, please. So I have to say that, as you can see here, we already had 2 of such programs, and we managed to have 152 participants on this who managed to go through all these difficult modules and to accomplish all of them, because our experts are very strict, and I have to say it's very difficult to go from a module to the other. But once you go through all this process, the added value is that you have a complete vision, a knowledge from A to Z of whatever problem can have. And the added value is that after you have this knowledge, it's a hands-on. So through a campus, you really learn how to do it, how to solve the problem, and you are doing concretely with our experts. So I have to say in concrete, and to summarize, and with this you can put the next slide, please. For me, I really want to take this occasion to congratulate the initiative of this working group that was heading by Carlos and Eric, to systemize this experience and to develop a methodology that shows not only the effective, it's not effective for this specific case, but is effective in general. Because if in general we do consider the needs, the context, the culture, the aspiration, I will even say, of your end user, it's only in this context that you can build something that really, really, really responds, and it's valuable and profitable for this community, or for the or personally for the person who was part of this educational process. So with this in mind, I cannot say other than I look forward that this type of projects be replicated in other regions. I look forward that ITU be here instrumental to replicate, to share from our experience, and perhaps to help other communities and region to discover this tailor-made program, because as it was explained by the previous speakers, it's so important to be within the context of the community, and to understand the communities, and to apply this specific educational program based on their needs with the communities from the very beginning. And I'm happy to continue this discussion, but I think my time was already over the established 3 minutes. So thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Roxana. Thanks for all the summary of this path that ITU have been doing a lot of actions since 2005 for indigenous communities. And after that, I want to ask Peter if you can also highlight why training is important, and why a lot of people here in Mexico start to do that dream that we call Tequio Comunitario. And well, the floor is yours.
Sure, thanks. That was a great presentation, Roxana, and thank you everyone else for your comments. It's very gratifying to have been on this journey with many of you, some of you for longer than others. Yeah, I mean, I think I can kind of share the historical setting a bit of this, where we were at some years ago. We started working with communities on information technologies some years ago, and many of us working with community radios before that, and continue to do that. And I think there was always a desire to find a way to, as we were building these technological projects with communities, to also be building the capacity of the communities to shape and maintain and re-envision what those projects could be, whether it was a radio project or a community cell phone network or whatever. And having been part of the technical community for some time, even without myself having any kind of degree in technology, but just sort of being available and willing to learn some basic electronic skills and just being around and having the right tools, it became evident to me anyway that if I could do it, then anyone else could do it. And that we needed to find ways to support from the technological aspect these community communication projects, and find ways so that communities themselves could, as much as possible, have the autonomy, right? This word autonomy comes up in the training guide, and this is what we're talking about: the ability to determine one's own future, right? And as we use technology to do that, it becomes important to understand as much as possible how the technology works, and also in order to not just to keep it functioning, but also to rethink how it works, how we want it to work, and how to even create new technologies or new ways of using technology in community contexts. So we started, I feel very fortunate here in Mexico. There's a really vibrant community, and even looking at the ITU stats of who are part of the courses, I think Mexico is always right at the top there. There's a very long and important history of community communication here in Mexico, community radios mainly. We're also pioneers on some networking technologies like the community cellular work that we're doing. So there's a really well-established community of people who have all been thinking about this for a long time, who have all been, discussing how can we get more people involved in the technical aspect of our networks, and how can we make sure that those people with the technical skills that we're helping to build also have the social and the community viewpoint, so that it's not just this kind of separated world where there's the community and their project, and then there's outsiders with technical knowledge who come and make sure it's working and come by every once in a while and check in, and hopefully everything is okay. And if it's not, well, hopefully there's someone around to fix it. So we started a project in Mexico together with a bunch of different organizations, all of whom were sort of concerned about the same issue. We called it Tequio Comunitario. So I think comunitario, even for folks in English, we can understand what that means, community. But the word Tequio is a word that in Mexico, there's other parallels in Latin America, like the word minga and these kinds of things, faena. The word Tequio here in Mexico refers to work that's done together by a community to solve community issues or to promote some kind of community goal or objective. So a lot of times Tequio is, okay, there was, I don't know, a mudslide, all the community gets together, they do a Tequio and they open the road back up. Or we need to build a school in the community, all the community gets together and they build the school together. That would be Tequio. So we did a small change in the spelling and replaced, usually Tequio is spelled Tequuio, and we changed it to have the word tech as in technology. So basically this idea of how we can come together as a community and do sort of community work on technology. So that's the meaning of the name. And yeah, there's been a lot of refinement, I would say, over the years. I mean, it's great that it's now kind of become an ITU course, and then we've also run courses in parallel and previous, just here in Mexico. Excuse me. And now, together with Carlos and together with our partners at APC, we're also working with some communities in different countries to replicate or to adapt and to come up with more localized versions of this. And I think the training guide that's been put together that synthesized the experience and proposes a methodology is super helpful for that. And I think we're also learning a lot from different contexts. We're working with partners in South Africa. We're working with folks in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Indonesia, and in Brazil as well, just starting there, to create a version of Tequio Comunitario that's localized. And I think the important point here is there's always going to be elements that are shared, and there's always also going to be elements that are unique. And that flexibility and having this methodology, I think, is super important. That is based on participatory action research. It's based on popular education, and that allows people to also define how they want to go about this. So I think that the important thing to understand here is we're not, and never were really trying to like impart specific knowledge on people. It was always about a process of reflection and a process of saying, if we think about community networks, if we think about community radio stations or any community project really, what are all of the elements that need to be present in order for those to thrive and for those to be successful? And this issue of capacity building, this issue of education is key for the long-term success of those projects and the long-term evolution of those projects. So yeah, I'm really, like I said, happy, proud of the work that Carlos and others have done to move this forward. Thankful as well to our partners at ITU and the folks from APC who have helped move this, one kind of unit down the road where we're now talking to people in other countries about how they would go about doing their own tequio comunitario. And yeah, congratulations to everybody.
Thanks, Peter. Before to continue with the other speakers, I want to share with you that we are taking all the questions that you have. If you want to ask something, you can put it in the chat or in the comments in YouTube, and we try to answer all the questions you people have. But this part, I think it is important because maybe almost all are thinking about and what contents have this guide and what is the content of this book. So Alma, if you can please help us with this answer these questions that all the people have.
Thank you, Carlos. Yeah, I'm going to introduce like the main structure, and well, first to say that we have an overview of community communication training and networks. So the guide is a methodological proposal that seeks to provide some practical recommendations for the creation and implementation of training programs related to the development and consolidation of community communications and telecommunication projects, and particularly to community networks. So for doing this, in addition to systematizing our own experience in training processes, in particularly the community tequio program that Peter was just explaining a little, and Daniela is going to explain a little bit deeper about this, which will be discussed later. We dedicate ourselves to study other projects around the world in which training is also seen as a key aspect for the social, economic, and political sustainability. So in this guide, we present different visions, reflections, and that enrich this scenario or map in which we find ourselves amidst many diverse projects that we call constellations. So this is a metaphor that we use for the guide, and that is also reflected in the beautiful design that was created by the designer Monica Parra, and we really want to thank her that she created this image that helps a lot to understand what we were trying to expose with this metaphor. And well, the guide is an open invitation to stop from our accelerated rhythm of life, observe what is happening around us, to try to check on who is, that we are a part of a multiple experiences, and rethink our own ideas. So by looking at all these different experiences, we intend to find a common ground and weave together paths toward technological autonomy and other ways of communicating. As we have seen with the previous participants, that are already discussing how we are a part of a bigger map and how we connect as different experience. So the ways we communicate, the language we use, and in this case, the technology we use to do so are examples of these diverse lines in the night sky that create this star map. So based on this, the guide reflects the implications of using technology and how talking about community networks implies much more than access to a specific connectivity service. There is a variety of definitions for community networks. We consider them as organizational and technology management process in favor of the dreams, desire, needs, and problem-solving efforts of the communities in which they develop. So creating and managing community networks is not only technical, but a form of use, appropriation, and transformation of communication tools in a particular territory. So we talk about technological autonomy, referring to a decision-making process done by the communities and how to use technology and for what purposes. So the training program that is here in this guide, I aim to promote and develop our projects, and we believe that each community project must follow their own path in order to respond to the particular needs and culture of each territory. So we have in this guide is not an instruction manual, and it doesn't have to be done exactly like it says, but it has to be replicated, adapting and contextualized to the needs and culture of each place where it is established. So, and we want to stress that in the guide is included not only the technological issues, but also it needs to be addressing economic, social, and organizational aspects. And the other thing is that, as Peter was already mentioning, the participatory methodologies and the cultural education are fundamental basis for a collective construction of training programs. So we also have in the guide, if we put the next slide, the participatory action research, which has allowed us to reflect on our practice, put a stop on the dynamics of our work, and to have a constant cycle between reflection and action. So here we see a diagram of how, in a very schematic way, how participatory action research is taught. And we are going to also explain in a little bit how Tekio was made and how was taught through this process. And this is in this case, the participatory action research arose as a response to the search for ways in which acting and reflection can be interweaved. It proposes to generate a community of learning and action that dreams, initiate a conjoint process, make decisions, and work together. So this is the main part of this methodology, that we work as a group, we work as a community, and we are always doing and thinking about what we are doing. So the phases are, the first is the scenario building process, and it's an exploratory phase, a preliminary picture, and we look at the possibilities of articulation, who is in our territories, and we can who we can work with and invite. So then is the seeing phase, and in this phase, the necessary information is collected. We try to understand the experience, the needs, the perspective of different people involved. We try to see those who are affected or have influence in the subject of telecommunications in this part. So we look at the actors, the training needs, the spaces, what is the values, principles, and knowledge systems. That is a very important part in this. And we systematize and try to order all this information to move to the thinking phase. And is on the here the group exchange the experience and knowledge and thinks how is it, what would be the best way to provide solutions to the problem. So in this phase, we reflect, and also it's the formation and the confirmation of a work team and advisory committee, and that is going to develop a design and is going to implement the process. So here we explain, we make we make sense of what is going on, the nature and relation of the events, and we start creating collectively for creating a program. So we arrived to this phase, answering questions like why, what, how, who, where, and when, and that will help us to make this plan. And then we start with the acting phase, and we start doing the program, but also like trying to keep in mind what we thought, and keeping in mind that we have to make the next stage, that is evaluation, constantly, so we can rephrase or rethink our process. So this is the action phase should be thought in participation with all the community involved in the research project process, and with other actors that can be invited to support the contents or process of reflection. And the evaluation phase, in this phase, the results and systematizing the experience is a process that will be constantly under construction through the journey of each training program. It helps us make adjustments on the process as it happens and for next experiences. And it should involve participants, members of the advisory committee, facilitators of the workshops. And we have also to recognize that this evaluation process helped to create new versions of TechU, and also the process that Roxana was explaining previously. And here I will stop, and I will. I think that I will give back the word to you, Carlos. I think that's the main structure of the guide.
Thanks, Salma. Thanks for sharing the content of the guide, and also this PAR methodology that we are using to develop these training programs. And I think this is the most important part of the guide, to help other organizations to this path, that it is very specific of the context in which the training will take place. I want to take this moment to thanks a lot to Alma, Daniela Parra, Daniela Bello, y Alejandra Carrillo, who are also the co-authors of this guide, put a lot of expertise and a lot of experience in this work, in this document. And also to thanks a lot to Monica Parra, who designed all the guide and put in images our dreams that we're going to share in this document. So thank you, thanks a lot for helping us in that. Also Lori and all the team in APC, the comms team, that help us with a lot of things to do this presentation, and also to make the corrections to the text that was important to share it. So thanks a lot of all the people involved in this process. I want to make a little break slide. We want to share with you a little video to maybe change the people are talking a lot. So this is a video that ITU made, and it is for share the efforts that they are doing with the indigenous people in almost all the countries that they have. So.
Leaving no one behind means ensuring that technology is people-centered and developed from the bottom up, in compliance with universal design and catering for the abilities and needs of all communities, including those of the elderly and indigenous peoples.
Muchas veces estas tecnologías llegan como a posicionarse dentro de las comunidades sin considerar mucho las formas propias, ¿no? de saber, de sentir, de conocer, de intercambiar.
Digital inclusion is a goal in itself, and also a powerful enabler. When technology is built and deployed, considering the needs and values of these communities, it could become a transformative voice for cultural preservation, self-determination, and empowerment.
Este proceso de formación aporta a mi comunidad a través de mi persona los conocimientos de alguna manera básicos, ¿no? De entrada, de inicio, para que no tengamos como comunidad que estar dependiendo de alguien más, sobre todo de fuera.
Technology needs to be put into the hands of the people who are going to use it, but for that, training and capacity building are key. ITU, in collaboration with other institutions, has been carrying out comprehensive training programs for Indigenous peoples, and in so fulfilling the mandate of its members and stakeholders.
Lo que queremos lograr es una visión crítica de las tecnologías, conocimiento sobre cómo manejarlas, para después apropiarlas y transformarlas en la medida en la que la comunidad quiere solucionar temas o lograr los sueños que se han propuesto.
Want to know more? Visit our website, partner with us, and let us work together to leave no one behind and no one offline.
Well, as you see, you saw in that video, there is a lot of images and thoughts that coming from the camp that we developed in February of 2020 in Quetzal del Progreso, thanks to the collaboration with the Unión de Cooperativas Tosepan-Titatanisque. I want to share also a hi to them for the work that they are doing. So I have one question here. Let me find it. It says, how does culture impact in the creation and development of community network, and how to address it in the training? And this is a question for Ritu, Risper, all the people that are, that are doing the training in their own context and own countries. I don't know.
Carlos, can you repeat the question?
Yes, of course. How does culture impact in the creation and development of community networks, and how to address it in the training?
I'm not able to get it. So I'm sorry, but there's some audible issues. Yeah.
Let me put here the question here in the chat.
It makes a lot of sense. Yes, so this question really makes a lot of sense because considering India as a diverse cultural people of living in with the different groups, different diversities, whether it's a cultural diversity, religion diversity, caste diversity, local dialect diversity, it is the challenge it is a challenge, but it is also an opportunity for a committee to come together and make the local content advisable in the part of a community network itself. When I was developing a training curriculum, I had to think from the thought process that it has to, what people do want to start with the training. So even in a cultural impact and the development, each and every culture and the diversity in India is different from one location to the another location. At one segment of the society may be developing a biodiversity or certain religion related to agriculture content or a local content, but on another segment, any fisherman committee where right now I'm working with one of the fisherman committee, they are trying to bring a fishing committee to bring a network for a fishing committee itself. There is a region there where the tribal indigenous people are trying to understand that even in a community radio stations, when I'm talking, they are working in a local regions, they do not understand the nuances of a basic tower itself. They do not understand the basic of these kind of things itself. So making them to understand, utilizing their own culture, utilizing their own social impact, it's really important. One of the things that which I have addressed through this community networks, that the training curriculum, the context, it's not only a national level, but it has to be contextualized as per the community need. One of the things which I will take it from your guide itself, the first thing that it's really like that it's a guide, it's not a manual which is a spoon-fed thing to any committee to talk about, to make the community network. They need to learn, they need to adapt it, they need to understand what are the thinking thought process, how they can make their they bring their values and their culture to make that community network social viable, and then further gradually to the economic viable. Because initially whatever happens, it's a contributory format of a community network. It's not that we start gaining itself economic, we start earning through that network. If the community is coming together, then some of them is are either lending their house, some of them are either lending their technical skills, or some of them are lending their other skills itself to the network, and that creates a social viable to the network itself, which is really important. And this is where that the overall they understand the aspect that why do they need the that particular network in their local context, in their local cultural diverse context. Specifically, like I can say from India aspect, when the most of our local dialects are vanishing, they are not spoken, they are only oral dialects. It is really important. It gives them a power to voice their voice and share their opinion within the local infrastructure, within the connected to the internet as well. I can share one of the examples. When I had gone to some of a local region, the girls were only searching the local dialect language song on the YouTube, and if they find, then they were very happy. But if they were not able to find, they were like, can we create certain kind of can we archive these our folk songs and put it into the group? That's something that's important, that they really try to find it out. But within that community itself, they were able to understand those kind of nuances. One of the things that I will say, that the addressing through the training program need to understand what are their needs for this committee, whether they are able to run it for a longer run. Specifically in the times of a COVID, nobody wants to go from a city to the rural part and to do a lot of a training and other stuff. So they have to commit forward, and hybrid model has to commit, like online training, offline training. And most of a region where we do not have an internet, it is talking about online training is not possible. So then the only which is coming up, the organizing a small bit of a camps where 2 or 3 fellows can come forward from the committee and they can learn, and then he can go back and set up the network. It's not the possible way that what other things can be done. Understanding the technology from their own community perspective, what kind of a set of technologies which exist in their community. Having said that, it could be the technology, or it could be the tallest building itself. Identifying the tallest building within their community itself is important. So those kind of roadmaps and the categorically dividing their needs, as well as identifying all those very small nuances. Or we can say that, okay, we do have a mountain, we do have a geographical, it can maybe the barrier, but it can maybe the opportunity to set up a network itself. So in both ways, it's an opportunity as well as a challenge for setting up a network. But once they overcome it, definitely it's a opportunity for them to set up the local set up the network. Yeah, thanks, Carlos.
Yes, thanks, Rito. I think you take the point that maybe when we are talking about community networks, we need to go beyond the network itself to think a lot of these local contents and why it's important to the people be connected and use these technologies that maybe is not the goal itself. No, I don't know. Maybe Risper, Krzyzewska, Peter, Roxana, if you want to answer this question.
Yes, I'd like to add on to what has been said. Yeah, it's challenging because even for us, when we're doing the interview for the advisory commission to just understand other community networks in Kenya, one of the CN founders expressed a rather interesting cultural problem in Kilifi County. It's one of the counties in Kenya where culture and traditions are deeply ingrained in day-to-day activities of the community, and they usually come first. If the community has to choose, people will prioritize funding wedding ceremonies and burials over installing technologies. So in a quote, he said, spending is subjective only for things the community cares about. No one has money when it comes to education, but when it comes to burial, wedding, money is available. So that dynamic of culture, but then again, also when it comes to now training itself, how we've leveraged on our resources to just sort of bring everyone together despite of the diversity in terms of tribes, different languages, just using. So when they come to training, we sort of try to adapt our training guide to fit our context. So if it's using examples, we use examples that people from my community, from Kibera, would recognize. So if it's saying, we'd probably use something like Mama Mboga, who is like people who sell kills, will do something, or we'll use a name of a participant who is in the session to just make them feel like they are already in the process. It's not like something foreign, it's something that they can easily relate to. And also just using every opportunity we get to collect evaluation to just try to understand how was the session, ways we can improve the sessions. So we give out documents, rather the evaluation documents, so that they can feel to just tell us how the sessions were, if there are anything they love that they want us to keep, or anything that they'd want us to change or do better. So by then we engage them and we know how to create something that is palatable to everyone.
Thanks, Risper. Peter, do you put your hand up?
I think Roxana has opened her mic, so.
Go ahead, and I go immediately after, no worries.
No, I didn't have my hand up. You should go, please.
So yes, for me, I think that the culture impact everyone, everywhere, in any part of the world, and definitely we have to consider in the process of development of let's say knowledge process, also in the communication process, and whatever kind of let's say interaction we have among us. Because if I'm coming from Europe, I'm going to speak in an Arabic country or in an Asian country, culture can impact everywhere. However, there were some words here that paid to my attention. So first of all, I think what people love is very important to keep in mind. What keeper interests are is very important to keep in mind, to build on all these pillars, all our process. So I would also want to highlight that perhaps would be very important for those who have already the ability to create content in local languages, in indigenous languages, to support, to open, let's say, the eyes of the young generation, perhaps to other perspective, to other type of knowledge. I think it's very important to try to develop from inside outside, to create content. Actually, I think the beauty of the technology now, because we pass from the information, let's say, stage to the communication even stage, we arrive to the creation of technology. And I think we have to try to put more attention on the creation of the technology, more attention on the creation of this content in the local language based on the people interest, on the people, let's say, passions about whatever it's important for them. And if for them it's important wedding and organizing events and how to do it, I think technology is there to bring them these moments which are unique in our lives, like a wedding, and to make from technology as something that people wants to achieve, wants to learn how to do it, for keeping this particular moments that all of us we have in our life. So anyway, as the manual was developed for all these colleagues here, and I have to say I'm very impressed, because to develop such a wonderful manual, this as a very pillar means a lot of dedication, passion, and devotion to do such a great job. And I congratulate all of you. I only know personally Carlo and Eric, but I heard that there are many people involved in this, and all my sincere congratulations and appreciation for this effort. But I think there's something that we should keep in mind: involve people from the design, adapt the content of the ways of people living, learning, about people are passionate about. That training should be both practical and let's say more holistically speaking, to understand the whole process, because from time to time people wants to see, to zoom out and to see, okay, what I really need to build this, and first to learn, and then to give them the possibility to be experimental. And well, there are many things to add here, and I think we all are passionate about and we like to speak about. But I only want to bring to your attention one of my first project in Indigenous, which was before we start, and it's very, actually I do not share this experience because it was a very bad one for me. But in 2003, when we developed a first Indigenous project, I was at that time working for youth, and it was a project, I will not mention it is in Latin America, but we built a project, and it was a key term project, I think we call it at that time. We put everything, all the system, we built a sort of small class full of equipment and how to do, and we give them the key, this is, and we try to give them the manuals and all this. The reality, it was that 4 years after, the class that we built for this young Indigenous was in the same stage that we let it. So no one was not even plugging these computers. No one was not even opening the manuals. And it was a very a huge lesson learned for me. that is not the way that you want to do something. You even offer everything that you believe that these people need to be connected, to have access to a lot of connection and communication. This is not enough. You have to be there to live with, to understand, to design even with your project, to accompany the project development, and then to ensure that these people have all the knowledge that they can by themselves make these projects sustainable. And that's why the importance of community networks to connect the disconnected population, because they are really sustainable. They are really operated by the people, by the community itself. And of course, that if people know how to maintain, if people are doing things that they like, they love in their own language, the success of the project is much bigger than of a project that you just came with, you put it in their hands, and you are expecting that people are happy with. And I don't think that this is happening. So once again, congratulations, because everything that you are sharing here, it's actually reinforcing the IT experience that we had up to now. And as I told you, we train over 5,000 indigenous, but only from 2018, thanks to this blended program, face-to-face and on-site, we really realized the added value and the difference. And actually, I forgot, and I will ask my colleagues perhaps to take 1 minute and to give a little bit more information about this project that perhaps someone else would like to join. Thank you for this.
Thank you, Roxana. I think Krzyzewska is also with their hand up, so maybe you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to, or I guess give a bit of my context to what everybody has shared so far about this question related to culture and all. I think that one idea or suggestion is to integrate the training with a project that's already ongoing in the community, with the idea of bringing technology as a tool to address the whole of the project, or a need that the community has, and help and have technology facilitate the addressing of that issue. And that's one thing that I appreciated extremely from the training, actually, that we went through the program, and I'm very thankful for to see how having the communications with the community, for one, can leave this open, and this opportunity to bring in the training and to develop a program, but also the openness, or I guess the view of how not just bringing technology for bringing technology, but to teach about it, but to complement it and have it as just a tool for a bigger project. And that's the approach that we are taking in Puerto Rico. It's how an ongoing project established with the community can utilize the technology training and this infrastructure and tools within it. I think that's in our context, how it can help and how it can work, and that also obviously addresses cultural needs and practices, and can also involve and include in my context, Afro-Caribbean populations that might not have necessarily that much access to technology and to those trainings, women, the LGBT community, and many others. So just interjecting and mixing with what's happening in the community, I think that it's a good way also to integrate all of it.
Thanks a lot, Krzyzewska, for sharing your experience too. And then Peter.
I have no comments.
Okay. Thanks. Well, after this question, I want to ask Daniela Parra to share to us this experience and how Tecchio Comunitario address this question about culture and training and communication, etc. So you can please go ahead, Dani.
Thank you, Carlos, and hi, everyone. It's very exciting to hear from you and your insights about this guide. So I'm going to share a little bit about Tecchio Comunitario. Peter has already talked about how this process took place. This is a training program that has been designed based on the needs that have been identified in the field of community communication in Mexico for several years. But especially in the technical field. So community communicators, as well as people who accompany these processes, have undertook the task of building a pedagogical proposal that would contribute to solving technical issues at a more specialized level for people in community media without depending on others, as we have already said. The program's contents were designed based on the ways of learning, the needs, the dreams, and values of each territory, as we have emphasized. So the two main objectives of Tecchio Comunitario have been to accompany communities in strengthening their technological and organizational capacities, as well as to generate a network of technical promoters for the creation or consolidation of community media and telecommunication projects. The name Tecchio Comunitario that already Peter explained, which combines the words Tecchio and tech, carries the idea of a technological appropriation process that is based on the ways that indigenous communities work, the ways that they learn, the ways that they organize, and is also nourished by popular education methodologies and other inspirations as free knowledge societies and the way that that they exchange knowledge. So the way that Tecchio Comunitario is structured is a combination between technical topics such as electricity, free software, electronics, but also a political and philosophical reflection on community communications and technologies, which are elements that we believe are fundamental to contribute to the sustainability of the processes that are participating in the program. There are three specializations, the three areas in which people can specialize, which are broadcasting, community networks, and community cellular networks, which are the things that the areas we have been working fundamentally here in Mexico. So far, we have had 2 face-to-face editions in Mexico with more than 50 graduates from 7 states of the country. We have also been working with the ITU for the training program for technical promoters in telecommunications and broadcasting in indigenous communities. This program consists of 5 online modules and a face-to-face training camp. In its first edition, 20 people from 11 countries of Latin America graduated. And in the second edition is now being carried out with the participation of approximately 30 people. In 2019, we also carried out what we call the seedbeds of community networks of the Abya Yala. One was carried out in the community of Charanqueri here in Mexico, and the other one was made in Tras la Sierra Valley in Argentina, thanks to the articulation between Redes, Rizomatica, and Altermundi with the support of the APC. It is important to say that for us, or for this experience of building Tecyo Comunitario, one key element has been the creation of an advisory committee so that the objectives that have been set can be pursued collectively. So this committee is made up of people who have a vast experience in indigenous communication and that participate in spaces as diverse as academia, non-governmental organizations, or indigenous and community media itself. In addition to supporting the program's design, this advisory committee participates in the logistical and academic tasks to carry out each module. So finally, it is important to say that this committee has been in constant change as well as a programs coordination. So we believe the process itself has to be transformed constantly. And this is why we believe that Tecyo Comunitario has its greatest strength in the collective methodology of its design and implementation, as well as the diversity of knowledge and experiences that we have shared along these years. So we hope that the experience that we share in the guide can resonate with all of you and all the people that read it, and can be also like a reference to develop other training programs based on specific contexts and based on specific dreams and based on specific needs. So that's a little bit about Tecyo Comunitario. Thank you, Carlos.
Thanks, Dani. This is the final part of the conversation, and I want to open the floor to the people here in Zoom if you want to say something, and also we are taking notes of all of your comments or doubts that you have in YouTube, so you can share it with us. Peter, your hand is up.
Yes, no, I do want to say something. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate one topic or one aspect of this, which is how important it is to create a community of practice and a community of learning. So I think we focus a lot on the training, or like the moment where the knowledge is transferred from somebody to somebody else. And I think that what we found is that the cross learning that's happening between people who are brought together, who are together, and who maybe will stay in touch or together somehow has been really, really interesting. I think with the Tecyo experience, also with the experience with ITU of bringing people together. So not just keeping it online, like having people be in the same place, meeting each other, learning from each other, and then keeping in touch with each other, I think is in some ways as important as what the actual information or the knowledge gained. And I say that because so much of the work that we do it as a network, not a technical network, but as a network with people, and helping and allowing local people, indigenous people to grow those networks of support that they have, and to create relationships, friendships, mentorships across different communities and different countries, I think has been a really, really excellent outcome of this work. And I truly believe that if we're doing this only online, we're only getting half of the value out of it. And so hopefully as the COVID crisis winds down, which is happening sooner in some places than others, we'll be able to bring people together again, and people will be able to see each other again, because there's so much richness that happens there. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Peter, for put in a few words our dream to make this community or learning a reality. So thanks a lot. And yes, also I wanted to this conversation take place in a face-to-face somewhere in the world, but I know that we have this time, the time to do that after the pandemic led us. So I know that there is here in the room a lot of people who has a lot of experience in training in their countries. There are people from Indonesia, from Kenya, from Nigeria, from Brazil, etc. I don't know if any one of you want to just turn your camera on and tell us what do you think about these thoughts that we are sharing with you.
I'm not among these valuable people, but I just want to echo what was said before by Peter and by other speakers, and also from ITU side, to take this opportunity and to make a call to all of you to stay together, to get together, and let's have a dream that perhaps what was implemented so nicely by us, thanks to your support in the Americas, perhaps in a near future, we can do the same in other regions of the world. And I'm convinced that education, it's an evolving process that never stops, and we cannot say that, okay, now I know and it's done. So I think that it's very important. It's one of the key issues, and I think catalytic, that this community stay together, grow together, continue to interchange opinion. And who knows, perhaps in other 4 years, it will be a new version of this guidelines based on our experience and lesson learned from other parts of the world. And I'm sure that with all your passion, with all your dedication, with all your determination and commitment to contribute, I think we can do great work. And in any event, I just want to reassure you that ITU is here to support, and we are very much committed to, exactly as I told at the very beginning, to provide equal opportunities with regards empowerment through technology to everyone. So we're here to support and happy to work together.
Thanks a lot, Roxana. Yes, the learning process is a process that never ends. And also, yes, we want to do that in other countries and to make this community grown and grown. For maybe in 4 years, we have another edition of this guide with the new learnings, and write this maybe for other people who took these things and make their own training program. I don't know, Kruszewska, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say a +1 to what Peter brought up in terms of building a community and strengthening that network. I think that well, I don't think, I know that that's one of the parts that I have appreciated the most after the training, the online courses, and then the face-to-face in Puebla. It put it all together for me, and it built connections with the rest of Latin America for me, which at times, especially living in the diaspora, it feels very isolating. Even in the times of being able to connect online and whatever, the in-person part has been very important. And I think that the building and the networking and the sharing the knowledge, it's uh, in a way can be more impactful that just a very structured training the hands-on part, the sharing of specific issues that we have had in our context, setting up infrastructure or even just how we share the knowledge. I think that's been very important, very useful for me. And I thank you, Carlos, and everybody else that have been in one way or another involved in that program. And in terms of the guide, that the biggest part for me was seeing that it was not just focused on how you develop the training part, but the big picture of how a program would work, how people are brought in to participate in it, and the appendix also, just all of the different examples of programs around the world. What's their approach? What are their goals? It builds within that networking and wanting to meet other people around the world, and how they are implementing all of these ideas that they mesh with each other, and sometimes and many times bring in new ways of addressing the needs of the community and how we can reach that autonomy that we're looking for.
Yes, thanks a lot, Francesca, because yes, you put together these things about community of learning, and also to share with us what are the main things that you think about training after you read the guide. So I don't know if anyone wants to share something, Ritu?
Yeah, so the one of the point that I really liked about this this panel, as well as something which I take away as well from a Peter, that when he mentioned that it's not all about the training capacity building of the community networks, it's all about community practices that which we are bringing together. It does not matter whether we are working with only specifically with networks, but I can say that from now that when I'm working with radio stations, identifying that, and that's my personal experience as well, and the experience which is coming, that radio station itself, they are not aware that what they can do with the tower, existing tower. So it's an experience that how we can develop a community practice, and they are eager to learn, and they are eager to understand, okay, how I can twist my tower, how can I use and reuse my tower for that purpose. They are curious to know. That curiosity has to be maintained within the community people itself. We cannot spoon fed everything to the community. It's a curiosity which is been evolving, and they understand that what culture values, what social values, what specific existing frugal technologies which exist in their region, they can build a network with their own, like whether working, they are identifying a bamboos or whatever, but that's something, a documentation which has to come up through this complete complete zone. So it's that community practice is been evolving, and maybe we never know that after 4 years we have a good set of documentation or a practice, that way we can say yes, we have more than a 300 or a 400 community practices combining of our networks and the radio station itself.
Thanks, Rito. Yes, I agree with that, because I think the community networks insert in a long process of community communication and use another technologies that communities use to reach their own goals. And we need to think about this mix of technologies as maybe a future of the community communication, and how to each one has their own importance in the process that the community wants to develop to share the communication. in a lot of ways. Well, thank you very much, everyone, to be here. I am very excited about all this conversation of these stories, all this experience that I think this is all about it. I hope you can read the guide, enjoy the guide, and give us the comments that you think it is important. We have your feedback about it. Here in the chat, we put the 2 links for the guide in Spanish and English, and also we will put them in the comments in YouTube. And I only want to finish this conversation. Sorry, Risper, you want to say something?
Yeah, just to add on also what I really liked from the training guide was that the ideas, the process really stood out for us at Tunapanda.net because it's replicable and it leaves room for autonomy in the design of our ideas and processes. And the fact that our diversity is our main strength also stood out for us because our local for organizations for operation is very different and demands continuous evaluation of processes and ideas. And also the participatory action research approach for the 5 phases laid down clear processes of curriculum design, groundwork, and evaluation strategies. I also like the aspect of advisory committee that brings and promotes the tremendous collaboration among community networks and even other stakeholders that are important in forming a community of practice. And lastly, the openness and candidness in interaction from everyone involved, because it's only through this that we can make meaningful progress in the task at hand. So we are keen on leveraging this approach in opening doors to imagining or rather emerging realities. Thank you, Carlos.
Thanks, Risper. Yes, we think that it is very important, and also I want to close with that this is really a collective work from the scratch to think how to develop this training and to strengthen this community of learning. And because of that, this advisory committee and all the things that are involved in since the beginning. And because of that, I want to thank a lot, because this guide is not a work for 5 people who write it. It's behind a lot of experience, a lot of people involved in this program, in each course, in each module, in each presentation, etc., in each syllabus. And so I want to thank all the TechIO community, to give their time and wants to learn all of the things, and each of the participants of the program with ITU, and each of the people that are involved in that. No, so many thanks, because this is not only the talks of 5 people, but is the experience of a lot of people involved in that, and who will share these dreams about in these training programs. So thanks a lot. Let's continue to develop the path to technological autonomy and to work with joy and happiness doing that. So thank you, everyone, to be here, and I want to join the guide. See you.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you.
Before we finish this conversation, if you want to to turn on your camera and take the selfie for remember this moment.
Yeah, it would be nice if you can make with all of us one, not only we, because we'd like to have actually the other participants, not ourselves. So
smile, everyone. And there are cameras turning on.
Everybody's showing up.
Perfect. So 1, 2, 3. Smile. Thanks a lot. See you in the next opportunity.